Why am I here? I'm here to plead with you. I never imagined that when Jack was 12 and I shot him on that video, I could never have imagined that I would be at the high school where he graduated from, speaking to all of you and pleading with you not to reach out for any kind of drugs, but particularly from someone that isn't your pharmacist and doctor.
For the first time in Ohio, a group called Fentanyl Fathers gave a riveting one-hour presentation to the more than 600 students there on the dangers of fentanyl. In it, potentially life-saving information every high school student and parent should know.
Parents of many of those lost call it murder.
Why do you call it murder?
Because he did not know he was taking it. He did not know what was in it. Most of the people that have gotten poisoned by this fentanyl, they don't know. They have no idea.
Kim lost her son Trevor 8 years ago. He was a Perkins graduate, played baseball there, had moved to Cleveland when the street drug he took ended his life. The founder of Fentanyl Fathers, Greg Swan. He lost his son Drew the same way.
And we discovered that most kids in high school have no idea that they're ordering this stuff up in the form of a prescribed pill that looks like a prescribed pill, but it comes in fake. And it's by brand names that they trust. Percocet, Adderall, Xanax. None of that is true.
The thing is, though, is they press these pills and they make them look. What's the difference? How would you know the difference? They make them look exactly like it. That's why I call them the counterfeit killer.
The purpose of today's presentation, education. The students were riveted by the presentation, which included a 20-minute movie.
Unresponsive at this time. ETA about 2 minutes.
Called Dead on Arrival.
This is the approximate number of prescription pills one would have to ingest to kill them. This is the amount of heroin the average person would have to ingest to kill them. Fentanyl. You're gonna have to bring that camera up here real close to see it. This much fentanyl would kill you and I if we split it.
I thought it was really moving. Me personally, I've dealt with, family members who went through, struggle with addiction and overdose. So I thought it was just really moving and just, a very good lesson just for our generation to help out a lot of kids.
There are a ton of different drugs that are out there, and all the different stuff that they mix into them is just insane to me. I didn't realize how prevalent this is, and even in our community.
I find this image to be the most telling. That's the amount of fentanyl. Look at that. It's like the size of a pin. 2 milligrams is enough to kill you. There are 2,000 milligrams in like a packet of sugar. That should give you a pretty good visual of how little it does take.
I think what really got to me was seeing how much of it on a pencil tip could just kill you that easily, and all the little jars of all the different ones, and seeing just, you never know, you wouldn't even be able to see it, and it would just kill you.
It's such a big thing around Erie County. I didn't know that. I didn't know that it was such a big thing. Even in Ohio, to know that our state is 5th on the list of all these drug overdoses, it's scary.
I wish somebody had sat me down and had this talk with me about what fentanyl does to people. I didn't get that chance. You do.
I can't get my son back. That's all he wanted. And I get it. I totally get it. I would do anything, and he even said he's not afraid to die because he knows that's when they'll be together again. And when I watch that, it resonates because nobody wants to die, but when you're put in a situation like this, it's like you have to believe that there's a chance that you could connect again.
One of the best analogies is Russian roulette. Teenagers in America are dying every day because they think they're taking pills such as Xanax or Adderall, but what it really is are copycat pills laced with fentanyl, which kills instantly.
So frightening, and these kids aren't taking it to get high, they're taking it to cope. And now a group of fathers united in grief are trying to find purpose in their loss. Mara McDonald joins us now live. And Mara, for parents of teenagers, this is definitely a must watch.
Karen, it really is. And you know, since the government cannot stop this poison from going across our borders, we've got a group of local dads who has come together to go directly to the kids and let them know that there is a ton of counterfeit prescription medication out there, especially being sold on social media channels. And if they think they're getting a Xanax or an Adderall in order to try and help them get through a big exam or a big interview, that more than likely it's fake. And they have a better than 50-50 chance, according to the DEA, of getting something that is laced with a lethal dose of fentanyl.
My name's Jack McCarthy, and I crush people.
Bright, charming, sweet, a good friend, a great brother, and the most beloved son.
Kathy had said to me one night, it's sort of like we're going to be living the rest of our days out in hell.
In September of 2021, 19-year-old Jack McCarthy collapsed at home.
You know, I was in the middle of a set, and I can't really remember all the details, I think, because your mind puts them away in a place. I just know my head was on the ground in a parking lot, and I was screaming.
What kills a healthy 19-year-old? Counterfeit Xanax, laced with fentanyl. Jack found a guy on Snapchat. He didn't want anybody to know the anxiety he was feeling. He bought 4 of what he thought was Xanax.
This was 100% trying to feel not super anxious.
For Jamie, son of radio icon J.P. McCarthy and a successful advertising executive, the first year was an exercise in survival. One of the only places offering respite, the garage he and Jack turned into a makeshift gym during COVID. The two love mixed martial arts and loved to spar.
I've come in here and laid on the floor and cried, to be honest with you, a few times. Not planning to.
In order to survive, Jamie came to the realization he needed to channel his rage.
You have to have purpose. You have to go find a purpose through your loss.
And then the stories from so many other parents whose beautiful, bright kids were murdered by counterfeit prescription meds started coming his way. He knew what he wanted to do.
I could never have imagined that I would be at the high school where he graduated from, speaking to all of you.
The kids, they leaned in and listened as the group known as Fentanyl Fathers explained the reality to them. Counterfeit prescription meds are everywhere. They have a better than 50-50 chance of dying from fentanyl poisoning if they buy it from someone on, say, Snapchat.
How many people do you know that suffered from anxiety? Raise your hand.
Or who have depression.
How about depression?
Jamie told them they must talk to somebody.
I know it's hard, but believe me, it's not nearly as hard as the alternative.
Kids can sense insincerity a mile away. What they saw on that stage,
I'm going to end my talk about Jack
was real.
With a poem that Jack's sister, if I can get through it.
And it was raw.
Samantha, do you want to come up and read it? Because I don't think I can get through it.
I hear the sweet intro of Sweet Child of Mine. I am tempted to turn it off, but today I let it play.
They needed to talk to him afterwards.
I told him that was the best music.
Oh, wow.
Jack McCarthy, forever 19. His father, Jamie, and the whole family, forever changed.
If I change one kid's mind, that's a victory.
I found this little clip that I shot of him when he was 12, and this really does encompass the spirit of Jack McCarthy.
No risk, no happiness, and no love. Hashtag YOLO.
Hashtag YOLO. And that's a fact. He was an amazing, amazing person, just like I'm sure all of you are, but he made a mistake. And he paid with his life. And so, here are Greg and I to plead with you not to. So Jack's story goes a little bit like this. Jack had emailed someone on Snapchat, and that is how he hooked up the deal, so to speak. What he asked for was a couple of Xanax and a couple of Adderall. I call this the ghosts that took my son. They are definitely responsible, and they look the other way. If someone were to buy 4 or 5 pills from someone on Snapchat, and maybe they don't take them, maybe they go home and then they go out with their friends, you go out with your friends, and somebody feels anxious, somebody feels like they need something, and you hand your friend that. It's sort of this less than 6 degrees of tragedy. Because beyond the drug dealers and beyond the long story of how fentanyl gets into the country and from China to Mexico here, the easiest and quickest way is just a snap away, right? Death is a snap away. I don't want any of you to make the same mistakes. What do you do if you happen to have anxiety and you take meds? You don't get on Snapchat and get them from somebody you don't know. You don't reach out to find more. You talk to somebody. I know it's hard, but believe me, it's not nearly as hard as the alternative. So when you're on social media and you're not feeling right, what do? You don't do that. You're taking a risk that is the ultimate price. It's your life. If you are thinking about it and you're tempted, that every pill will kill you. Sorry, I get a little angry talking about it.
When you get the message that your son died, my son Jack is here, he called me up and just said, Drew's dead in the middle of the night. It is a mind blower. It does change your life, and it creates zombies in the parents who are so sad, and the brother, and it's taken us a long, long time to come back. But because you guys are here, this is actually our medicine. Being able to give our message out to you so that we can think that in our kid's name, it won't happen. I'm going to mention something about Drew real quick, and then we'll go back to that slide. But my son Drew Swan was he was a rock star. He was super, super intelligent. We would try to not say dumb things around him because he would bust us and never let us forget it. He had his own business running. He had a group of friends that he was doing well with. He was living on his own in Florida. And he had a problem with an injury, a sports injury. He was a phenomenal athlete. He was state champion as a freshman in swimming, and he was MVP on his tennis team as a freshman. So this guy had nothing but potential. But unfortunately, I told Drew, the graveyard is full of people who are genius and talented and good looking. It doesn't matter. There's nothing that compares with this drug in terms of death. Go ahead. This is an amazing slide. So we have some experts in the audience here that would want to give a qualifier. There was not 110,000 people that died just of fentanyl. It was mostly fentanyl. There's been other overdose drug deaths as well, but it's mostly fentanyl and it's mostly young people. And what I want to point out to you is that how big is this mammoth problem? Well, I'll tell you how big. You've had the drunk driving people here, the mad people. We have mad people on our board of directors who are helping us get into every single high school in America. There's 25,000 of them. 10,000 people die of drunk driving, making it 1/10 the problem of what this epidemic is doing. The 9/11 attack, you can toss that in. Toss in everybody who died under the age of 30 of COVID. You heard about COVID the last couple of years. Childhood cancer gets a lot of money thrown at it, and deservedly so. Everybody who died in the Vietnam War, every single soldier, totals 58,000. And global plane crashes since 2006. Add it all up, you're still come up 14,000 shy of what killed and this is close to 15, of what did last year in terms of deaths. Think of what a behemoth 900-pound gorilla fentanyl is compared to that. My basic goal to come here is to have you guys more likely to go drink gasoline than you would ever have an unprescribed pill. You got prom season, you got summer coming up, you see people playing around with that, you know they're playing with fire, and you run, you don't walk away type of thing. It's not the old adage from Nancy Reagan, just say no. It's, what are you doing type of thing. We hand the assertiveness and the control to you. Fentanyl is right now being called a weapon of mass destruction. You can see in 1999, the number of drug overdose deaths has just gone straight up. And this, in 2021, it was 106. Last year it was 110,000. You can see this is a ridiculous problem. It's become the #1 cause of death of U.S. adults. This has now been lowered to 14. And over here, you can see that 77% in the trends in the CDC have been caused by fentanyl of the overdoses. 114% increase in adolescent overdose deaths. Why we're here at high school. This is appropriate for middle schoolers as well. And 2/3 of adolescent overdose deaths are witnessed, and then they're sitting there and they don't know what to do. And I think you might be able to demonstrate what you can do if you witness an overdose death.
You spray a dose into this. If you come upon somebody and you see that their vitals aren't there, let's see if I can do this right into the light. Kind of looks like Flonase or something like that. And what you want to do with these is, you don't just kind of stick it outside. You stick it as all the way in until the nose hits the square part. And it's just one simple spray. And hopefully you've just saved a life.
All right, so I want to say this all together. We've thrown a lot of facts at you. It's really important. There's a principle, comes from ancient writings, the scripture, but I'm not asking you to adopt any of my belief system. But there is this one that's powerful. It says, if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart, you'll be saved. We want you to be saved from an overdose. We want you to be saved from doing this. And we're not really, we're mostly talking to the 95% of you that have never even done drugs. We don't want you to start. Now, I also want to just take a moment to thank your principal, Kyle. I want to thank Lisa for hosting this thing, Donnelly. Thank you so much. Let's just say this together. I'm gonna say, I'll never try. Then I'm gonna ask you to say it. Then I'm gonna say, I'll never die. Then I'm gonna ask you to say it from fentanyl. And this is gonna help you graduate from fentanyl school today. All right, here we go. I'll never try.
I'll never try.
So I'll never die.
So I'll never die.
From fentanyl.
From fentanyl.
Okay, if I had some caps, I'd pass them around, but you are officially fentanyl free. I have no doubt you will never go near this stuff. Thank you so much.
Hey, let's
next slide.
How about a round of applause for Greg Swan? He's
thank you.
He's been my one of our fentanyl fathers. She's a mother. Sandy, who lives in Alaska, went to the to Washington D.C. She has a bill she's trying to pass called Bruce's Law, and it just so happened she walked out of her hotel room, saw a young man on the floor face down, blue. Turned him over, ran to her room, grabbed, I believe it was Cloxato, administered it, saved his life. How's that? That's a pretty crazy story.
He was 20 years old. Thank you so much, everybody. Really.
Thank you guys very much.
Thanks for coming. And you
Be
guys
safe.
did great. You guys have a lot of love. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody. You can go back to your classrooms and get your backpacks.
Yeah, this was a very powerful message, and the kids were very, in tune with it. And, when you looked around, you saw some kids crying, wiping tears off their face. So, we think the message was, hit pretty hard to them. So it was very good.